I'm Khyra Stiner, and you're listening to Elaborate with Kay. Elaborate with Kay. Hey guys, you're listening to Elaborate with Kay. My name's Khyra Stiner, and I'm the host of Elaborate with Kay. So, in today's episode, I'm going to be introducing you to the podcast and giving you all the who, what, when, where, whys, and hows of how it came to be and why you should tune in to listen every Sunday. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, the whole idea of Elaborate with Kay stemmed from back in 2020 when I started a digital web series. I had always been really into journalism and writing, film, all of that. Just throughout my life, I was on my middle school's magazine, as well as when I graduated to our high school campus, I was on our school newspaper for a year. And I'd always just loved writing and I loved talking to people, making new friends. I went to 6 different schools from the time I was in preschool up until my senior year of high school. So I was constantly familiar with just meeting new people, talking to new people, and I loved forming new connections. And so that's kind of how all of this came to be. So I was on my school's newspaper and magazine, and I started off with just writing news articles, a little bit of the arts and entertainment, but for the most part, it was a lot of news. I didn't write the opinions. I did a couple of features, but like I said, I wrote mostly news, and that was fun, and I enjoyed it. But even watching the news and just, being conscious of what was happening in the world, I found that there wasn't a lot of very uplifting stories about Black people, Black artists, just Black people in general. A lot of times when you do see Black people on the news, it's not always the best thing. And I remember growing up, and even now, when, certain things would happen and hearing people be like, oh, was the person Black? Like, oh, that's why. And just, saying things, stereotyping. And for me, like I said, I'm a very positive person. I love uplifting people, and I really wanted there to be a space to uplift and kind of share Black voices and Black stories because growing up, I met a lot of different people from all of my different schools and all the different extracurriculars that I did. And these people were doing really, really cool, impressive things for our age, but there was nowhere for them to really share that and no way for you to really know everything that they were doing. And so I decided to change that. So originally, I thought about starting a magazine at my school to share just different stories and all of that. But I figured that I actually wanted it to be bigger than just my school. I went to a predominantly white school from the time that I was in 7th grade all the way until I graduated high school. And so I definitely had my group of Black friends, and we had a Black community. I was one of the leaders of our Black student union on campus, but like I said, I wanted this to be way bigger than just my school and the small Black population that we had. So I was brainstorming and I figured that I could start a web series and, start interviewing people and talking to different people about all their different projects, passions, and like things that they were working on that they wanted to share just to give them an outlet to shine that positivity. And so I started this in 2020 during COVID when, there was just a lot of negative things being shown in the news and it was a really hard time for everyone. So I wanted to kind of provide a positive light for us all to just embrace positive Black excellence. And so this is how Elaborate with Kay started. I used Zoom to conduct all of my interviews. I recorded them, edited and posted them on my website. And I used to write articles I called the Weekly Spotlight, and it would be about just different aspects of Black history that related to whatever topic we were talking about in the interview for that week. And that was an extremely fun process for me. I loved meeting and talking to all the new people and getting to hear their stories, share some of my own. It was a great experience. And then when I went to college, I started off in college and I took a pause from it just because, college is very new. I wanted to get acclimated to it. And I was very busy. I got caught up in I'm now the president of my school's Black Student Union. I'm on the track and field team. I'm a screenwriting major, so I take on my classes. I got very busy in just being a college student for a bit. But I decided that I wanted to come back because, like I said, I love meeting and talking to new people. And first of all, I missed it. but I also met so many wonderful, amazing, talented people during my time at school, and I wanted them to have an outlet to be able to share, talk about their experiences, their stories, and, just promote positive Black excellence, like I said. And so, how the podcast came is I love listening to podcasts, especially I think once I got into my senior year of high school and going into college, I started listening to podcasts a lot more when I'm working, doing different projects, assignments, or just to pass time in car rides, long car rides, road trips, plane rides, all of that. I love a good podcast. And my favorite podcasts to listen to are the lifestyle podcasts, where it's just people talking about what's going on in their lives, what's going on in the world, and they're not necessarily sticking to one specific topic, but they have the opportunity to talk to people about all of these different aspects of life because everyone's life is different and has, different characteristics. And so I wanted to do that. And like I said, I love listening to all of these podcasts, but what I found is there wasn't necessarily a space for them to be geared towards Black people specifically. I have podcasts for every day of the week and I love listening to them, but like I said, none of them really, there's not a lot of them in the podcast space that kind of gear or where their niche is specifically the Black community. And so I saw a little gap in the market and I decided that I was going to fill that gap. And so here we are. And Elaborate with K obviously is not just for Black people. Anyone can listen to it, but I specifically wanted it to be a platform where Black people and young Black creative entrepreneurs, artists, anything that you want to share your story. I just wanted this to be a platform for them to feel safe and welcome and have something. So that is how we got started here. When you listen to Elaborate with Kay, I want it to be a safe space for both the myself, the guests that I have, and the listeners. I want this to be, it can just be a part of your weekly routine on your drive to work, when you're getting ready, doing a Sunday reset. I want this to be a place where everyone feels safe and welcome. And yeah. So, now a little bit about me. My name is Khyra Stiner, and I'm a senior screenwriting major with double minors in public relations and creative and cultural industries at Chapman University. I'm also president of our Black Student Union, and I'm a member of our track and field team. And I am the host of the Elaborate with K podcast that you're listening to right now. So, I just wanted to kind of introduce myself to you all as well. Obviously, you're going to be hearing my voice quite a lot with these podcast episodes. So, I thought that I would give you a little bit of insight into who I am and how that relates to this podcast. So, as I mentioned earlier, I am a people person. I love meeting and talking to new people. It's one of my favorite things. Relationships and friendships. I'm amazed by all of the wonderful people that are out there in the world, and I love talking to them, meeting new people and hearing their stories. And specifically, I think that growing up, Black people and Black students, so I went to a predominantly white institution from the time that I was in seventh grade through my high school graduation. And then currently at my college, I'm also at a PWI. And so, what I've seen and witnessed is that Black people are often, you're told, and you kind of figure out that you do have to work a little bit harder to kind of get the same recognition and what you think you deserve. And it takes it takes more effort to get people to look at you the way that you want them to look at you and the way that they look at your peers. So what I found is that a lot of Black people as well are also, you know, they're very humble. And I know a lot of people that are doing these really great, amazing things, but you would have absolutely no clue what was going on in their free time or in their time outside of where you know them if you didn't talk to them, because they don't want to seem like they're bragging or super self-centered and just talking about themselves a lot. And so I've like I said, I've met so many wonderful people that are doing just amazing things. I want them to have a space to be able to share that, but I also want to be able to share that with all of you and for more people to know and learn about all these wonderful things that Black people are doing, because it's great. And this platform is specifically for that. It's to uplift and share the stories of Black people, not just creative people, but entrepreneurs, people in the corporate spaces, people in all different spaces from all different backgrounds and walks of life, different experiences. We're going to come together, share stories, talk about all these different things. And I want it to just be a fun space where you feel like you're sitting here listening and talking to your friends because that's what we are. We're all friends here. So, yeah, that's a little bit about what to expect, but more about me. I have a background in journalism. I've always loved writing. Growing up, I would write short stories as well as, like I said, I was on my school's newspaper. But growing up, I'd always had a passion for writing and just storytelling in general. I loved reading books. I would read books in a day. And when I was in elementary school, I read basically all the books in our school library and had to go get a library card and get new books from the library. And my mom and I would go to Barnes and Nobles and I would come out with stacks of books that I would read in a couple days or in a week. And my mom was like, "You're going through all these books so fast. Like maybe I need to get you harder reading levels." Like, I don't know, words have just always been something that I'm super drawn to. I love storytelling, and I used to write short stories when I was little on paper, and then when I got a laptop, I would type them out. And I thought that I wanted to be an author when I grew up because I was always writing and I read so many books and I figured, "Oh, that sounds like something fun that I could do." But I didn't love it, but I wanted to keep writing. And the one thing that I did also love was movies. I had my favorite movies that I watched all the time. I watched them so much that my DVD scratched and I couldn't watch them anymore, but I loved it. I think that the difference between books and movies is books you're transported into this world, and movies it's always so satisfying for me to be able to see them on screen. And knowing that someone wrote those words was always really cool. And so I discovered my mom introduced me to screenwriting. I had no idea what that was. Um, and she told me, yeah, those are the people that made movies. Because I'd always loved watching movies. And growing up, I did a little bit of acting and I would read scripts and I would read scripts of like movies that I really liked. But it never occurred to me that there was actually someone behind a computer or with a pencil and a piece of paper actually writing those scripts. I kind of thought they disappeared. And so when I found out that there were people that actually wrote those scripts and that I could be one of those people, my life was changed. So I took a screenwriting summer class at my high school and got really into it. The film that I wrote actually ended up being shot and screened at the Los Angeles Student Film Festival that year. So I got to watch my movie on the screen for the very first time and I saw the words written by Khyra Stiner. And in that moment, I was like, I know this is what I'm meant to do. So that was about my sophomore year of high school. And then moving forward, I took all the film classes that my school offered. We had a cinema studies class with the most amazing teacher that I ever had. His name was Ted Walsh, and he made it so much fun. He was super, super warm, super inviting, and I could tell that he was super passionate about all the movies that we watched because the way he talked about them, it was great. And he made me fall in love with film even more. So then, my senior year of high school, I decided that I wanted to do an independent study and write a short film. You write the script for a short film during the first semester. And I asked Mr. Walsh if he would be my advisor for it, and he agreed. And so that's what I did. I wrote this short film script, and then at the halfway point through the school year, I was like, I think I want to keep writing this. Like, I think I would like to develop it into a feature film. And I talked to Mr. Walsh and he agreed. So we continued on my independent study through the school year. So instead of it being a short film, it turned into a feature length script that I had finished by the end of my senior year of high school, which is really cool. And so during that time, I applied to different colleges. I got into Chapman University for their screenwriting program at Dodge College, which is honestly so amazing. I've had an amazing experience so far. And that's how I got into film. But, you know, I think that there's always so many different aspects and so many different facets and interests that people have. I don't think that people are tied down to one thing. So, yes, I am a filmmaker, or I do like writing films, but I'm also super interested in public relations and marketing and advertising and being creative in terms of like developing projects. And I like meeting new people. I like talking to people, and that's an element of communications, but I love talking to new people. And even with the podcast, like I've developed and designed and run the website myself. And that's always super fun. That's a little like passion project for me. I have so much fun doing it, just being creative, both visually and internally with writing. I think that's why screenwriting was such a good fit for me because not only am I being creative in the words that I'm writing down, but they're creating a bigger image and kind of developing that. And so I think that that's always been super fun for me. So, yes, but as I mentioned, I went to a PWI or a predominantly white institution throughout my middle school and high school years, and then as well as college. And I've always had the experience of being one of very, very few, if not the only Black person in different classes and different spaces, events. And it's become a thing where you walk into a room and you immediately notice how many other Black people are in the room, if there are any, or if you're the only one, kind of feeling out the vibe. And I've talked to a lot of my friends that have gone to these PWIs with me, and that is a shared experience that I think we've all had. And it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, it's just kind of it's become a habit. And this podcast is specifically, it's for the people who have had to do that, the people who have counted how many people look like them are in a room, and the people that have walked into a room counted how many people have looked like them, and that number has been enough for you to count on your hands or on one hand. And this podcast is for all the people that have to type in the word black after Google search in order to get the results that you want. And this podcast is for anyone who has ever felt like they didn't see enough of themselves represented. And that's why I went into film as well. Is I loved watching movies, and I grew up, watching movies sitting in front of a screen, and my favorite movies were always the ones that I related to, whether it was Black characters, Black little girls in general as well, and just, people that had some type of similar experience to me. But the one thing that I found was that there was never enough. There was never enough representation of Black girls just living their lives. I think that there's this whole subgenre of film, TV, and even I think books are a little better, but TV and films and even in the news, and it's like historical films or Black struggle films, and it's not usually just a movie of a Black girl like going through a heartbreak. It's a Black girl, dealing with traumas. And yes, sometimes those movies are realistic depictions of real experiences, but I think that there's also a world in which you can have realistic depictions of real life experiences, and they don't have to be super negative. Like, obviously, a movie is developed with the premise and the plot of a movie happens when there is a problem, when there is an issue that the protagonist has to overcome. But I don't think that with Black characters, that issue always has to be related. And so, my favorite type of movies to write, I love writing dramas. And I try in every script, every story that I write, I try to have most of the time my main characters will be Black, or I try to have um at least one important Black character in my films and in my scripts. And it's for representation because growing up, I didn't have that. I didn't have a lot of that. And I don't want every generation after me to go through that same experience. I want them all to be able to watch movies and TV shows and see themselves on there and see these real experiences because they're living them. And yes, sometimes life is hard and there are different aspects of it that change and are different based on your background, but that doesn't mean that every single depiction you see of yourself has to be more on the negative side. So I definitely want there to be, positive representation. And yes, I want that to be in film and TV. And that's what I'm working on with my writing. But I want that to be in the mainstream media as well, on social media, YouTube, all these different platforms. I want there to be just a positive light shined on Black people and Black experience. So that's what this podcast is for. This podcast is really just to showcase and share and uplift Black people in the Black community and give them a space where they feel welcomed and enjoy a nice little podcast. So thank you so much for joining me today on our very first introduction episode of the Elaborate with K podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you all, and yeah, thank you so much for listening. You can find this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts every Sunday on YouTube and various audio platforms. You can also find more information, news, events, upcoming episodes on elaboratewithk.com. Make sure to follow on all socials at elaboratewithk. And I look forward to talking to you next Sunday. Bye. And yeah, talk to you next Sunday.